Akvile DeFazio is a remarkably impressive founder and president of Akvertise, a social media advertising agency in California. She's been on PPC Heroes' list of the top PPC influencers for the past 3 years. She's a regular presenter on topics related to paid social. She's spoken at numerous industry conferences, including Pubcon, Paid Traffic Conference, Engage, and the Utah DMC Conference. Akvile had a really interesting journey to business ownership. She served in many manager and senior level positions, including a stint at Third Door Media as their digital marketing manager. How she decided to start her own agency was a topic I definitely wanted to ask her about. It's common to find Akvile mentioned in roundups and on webinars about social media marketing. Early this year, the state of California passed the California Consumer Privacy Act, or CCPA for short. The CCPA regulates how social media platforms are allowed to collect user data. Akvile is a leading voice on the ramifications of this law for social media marketers. Grab a beer and join Akvile and me for a conversation all about social media marketing, entrepreneurship, and what savvy marketers are doing different during the COVID-19 pandemic. Akvile, welcome to Suds and Search. How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on, Mark.
Thanks for coming. I hope you got a shipment of beer.
I sure did.
I'm drinking one of my favorite breweries here, Big Isle. This is called Scent with Lasers. Cheers. I'm gonna try and make
Ooh,
this is
like the can.
hazy IPA. So,
Well,
what do you have?
perfect. I am going to have the Firestone Propagator. It's also a hazy IPA.
Perfect. All right. Well, cheers, and thanks again
Cheers.
for coming on. It's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon here, and it's burning hot. So this is good timing for me. So I appreciate you coming
Likewise.
on.
Yeah, it's 2 o'clock here, but I've been up since 4, so it's the end of the day.
My wife and I have 3 little kids, and so I know the feeling of getting up at around 4.
Oh yeah.
I was up at 1 and then again at 6. So I have a 10-month-old who's keeping us on our toes. So
Congratulations. We have a 9-month-old.
oh, we'd start a play group next time we're at a conference or something like that. It would be fun. So tell me a little bit about how you got started here. How did you become an entrepreneur? How did this whole journey take hold?
Well, it's probably a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. But I actually have a degree in exercise science. I was planning to go into physical therapy. I was trying to get my master's and start my own physical therapy practice, but I tried for 3 years to get in, and it's incredibly competitive. Every school across the country takes only maybe 20 to 30 people max. And I enjoyed doing the work from what I got to do, but anytime there were some marketing tasks at the clinics I had worked at, I immediately jumped on them. And I've always had a more creative background and interest because my parents are, my biological dad and my mother, they're both very artistic when it comes to music and creatives. And I always wanted to dive into that, but I also had the analytical side of my brain since I was studying science. And after trying to get in, my school counselor was like, you may want to consider other career choices. And I think I was just waiting for somebody to give me permission to stop doing that because I was afraid to tell my parents that I didn't want to go into medicine anymore.
Right.
So I really wanted to explore marketing more. And at the time I was living in Seattle, and there was a local ski, snowboard, outdoor apparel and gear shop called Evo. They're a huge e-commerce company, but they had a physical location in Seattle. And I fought to get an internship there for 3 months. And they're like, why do you want this? They interviewed me so many times. And they're like, you're the only person without a business marketing communications degree.
Right.
Like you're the wild card here. And thankfully they went with me and they hired me full time after that. And then I just fell right into it. And I started actually off with paid search. And throughout the years, I really gravitated more towards paid social. I find it really interesting to target people based on interests and behaviors rather than keywords. And I still kind of dive into paid search here and there because it's just part of the funnel. It's part of the whole holistic strategy. But I worked for a pet insurance company after that. And then I worked for Search Marketing Expo for 3 years, doing all things from paid search to paid social. Yeah. So there were 2 of us in the marketing department there. And we pretty much did all the stuff for the shows when it came to marketing and advertising. And after that, I realized I wanted something more. And wrapping up my story, I feel like long story long.
Yeah.
And then I just wanted something more and realized that I though I haven't worked in an agency before, I wanted to work for myself and in that space and work with a variety of businesses. So it seemed like a natural step to just start my own agency. And I reached out to Pamela Lund, who's been in the industry for a long time. She's a PPC whiz, and she's been a close friend of mine. And I put off asking her for 9 months, even though we've talked about the most candid things. We're very close friends. And I put off asking her if I could just shadow her for a day, since she had been doing this for 10 years prior. And I emailed her one day out of frustration. I was like, I'm just ready to take this leap. Can I just shadow you for a day? Right. And I don't know how to thank her for it, but she's like, I'll do you one better. I've taken on too much work. I'll give you half my clients, teach you everything I know, because I want to, scale back from paid search and kind of started a very different business outside of the industry. And here we are today. I'm now running my own thing 5 years later, thanks to her.
Wow, that's unbelievable. What a gift. That's awesome. And tell me about your agency. How big are you, and what kind of clients do you service?
So we are nimble. There are only 4 of us. I manage all the accounts, but I have people assist me with content, with web development and graphics. But I'm the one that's managing all of our client accounts and doing business development. So I do wear a lot of hats. I'm looking to grow, but I've been doing it slowly. But we work primarily with e-commerce brands, events, mobile apps, and some B2B clients for lead gen. But our clients range from small businesses where we live here in Central California to medium-sized businesses like shoewear companies, from Birdies to Rothy's, mobile apps from, we worked with Postmates last year for half of the year. We're currently working with like FTD, Pro Flowers. So we have a wide range of clients.
That's great. And now you're doing all that, and you have to find out about PPP and how to do all these loans and everything I'm going through. It's like, I thought I was going to start a business and do a bunch of SEO, and now it's like it's been whirlwind here recently. So that's a great story. I have one thing about anybody in paid social that I always want to ask them is, as an SEO, we really have to worry about Google, and that's not it. We have to care about Bing, and we have to care about these other things, but we really have to care about Google. You guys have to worry about a lot of different platforms. And recently, one that I don't know anything about is TikTok. So I thought, maybe tell me about that challenge of understanding all these different platforms, where to put your clients and get the best return on ad spend, and maybe how TikTok plays in.
Sure, great question. It's very different. You have plenty of changes that transpire with, with Google's doing with their updates, testing new features. So same with us, just we do have a few more platforms to play with. But I would say that if you're getting started, Facebook and Instagram are still the least expensive, best targeting platforms for advertising to, from top of the funnel, if you were looking to introduce your brand to new customers, to getting them to come down through a retargeting campaign. But there are some other great platforms. We've been testing Pinterest quite a bit. You can get lower CPCs there, but we have yet to see anyone truly blow it out of the water in terms of conversions or cost per acquisition goals. So we just use it kind of to feed the funnel and promote content. When it comes to TikTok, we haven't yet had the opportunity to work with anyone to get them to test that out. I feel like brands are a little scared to dive into a new platform, especially during the times of COVID, because they don't really have much of an appetite to test outside of what's been working historically, in case they might be struggling to stay afloat. But we are trying to pitch a client now that has a larger budget to dive into TikTok, because you can get really creative there. People are spending so much time on that channel and just watching videos, and it's becoming more popular with outside of just younger demographics, but a lot of older people also joining in just to watch and create their own content.
Awesome. And so, as a percentage, is Facebook and Instagram, is that still like 90% of the ad revenue? Are you free to disclose that kind of stuff, or how much of what does the pie chart look like? It's mostly Facebook and Instagram still.
Mostly Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, there's like most of the world is on Facebook. Right. So, sharing an ad platform with Instagram, it's a very powerful tool, but you shouldn't be afraid to test other channels like Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, TikTok, Snap ads. There's a wide gamut of different types of channels and audiences that you can reach through different means.
Man, it's a lot to keep track of. And then as we're speaking, Facebook just acquired Giphy, so they paid
Yeah.
a small chunk of change, like $400 million for
Oh yeah, that's
money they found in their sofa. What do you make of this? Are they going to put a pixel everywhere on planet Earth now with this?
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. It'll be interesting to see what happens with it. I kind of suspected it, seeing that you can easily add GIFs into your own Facebook posts, but
Right.
maybe they'll add that as an ad option, because Facebook's been really building out a lot of creative tools for people to use within Ads Manager that are free, especially if you don't have your own arsenal of images, videos. So if depending on if you have rights to certain types of content that people are using from movies or TV or other sources through Giphy, that maybe they'll offer that as a way to put GIFs into ads. Who knows? We'll see.
Amazing. And then the other big picture look at Facebook is like consumer protection. So at the beginning of the year, there was something called CCPA, I think. Is that what it is?
Yep.
And this had an impact just in California on, as far as I know, so correct me if I'm wrong, especially on remarketing. What role do you see? You're in California. What role do you see this sort of regulation having on paid social people?
Oh, it's had a huge impact. I didn't find out about this until I saw two guys tweet about it mid-February, but the law rolled out January 1st this year. So if you are doing any pixel-based retargeting on Facebook, and if you're targeting California, you may get very little to no ad spend there, or any impressions, and obviously conversions as well. So we ran some reports right after seeing that tweet. I think a gentleman named Abdul posted it, and then somebody else retweeted it, and it just turned into this whole thread of, oh no, like, what do we do? Because California is a huge state, there's a massive population that a lot of businesses are really reliant on as their customer base. So we noticed that in all of our accounts, big and small, that we were heavily impacted in those retargeting campaigns, particularly for website visitors or certain landing pages that we're retargeting to. And we noticed that it went from, like, I think, forget the percentages, but it was massive. Almost like 95% of the ad spend was gone from California. And like, it was devastating. Like, our clients were like, oh, we were wondering what was going on, but we just couldn't figure out why this was happening, and because I feel like the law was very quietly passed. So we decided that what would be the closest thing to getting somebody that's visited your website to come back. And I thought about it and proposed to my clients, let's try out testing people that have previously engaged with an organic Facebook post or a Facebook ad or an Instagram post or ad. Because if you are engaging with it, that takes into account anyone that reacted to it, commented, shared, and especially clicked through. So chances are most people that engaged with a post or an ad clicked to go to your website and then got tagged by the pixel. So while that still may bucket in a few people that didn't necessarily click through and just engage with it, that was the closest thing that we could think about. So we ran that as a test immediately back in February, and we're still doing that now for a lot of our clients. And it's, it doesn't have the historical data as the larger US-based campaign per se, but it is making up quite a bit for it.
That's a great adjustment. What does this entail? You mentioned, is it just remarketing, or are all ads to California impacted by this?
Just retargeting or remarketing.
Retargeting, yeah.
Anything that's pixel based. So anything that was, somebody hit your site, or any, just anything on your domain, basically, where the pixel is placed. If anyone has a California IP, then they would no longer see ads in a retargeting campaign.
Okay. And then you're well known for preaching about video ads and best practices in that area. What are you seeing people doing right, and what are you seeing people doing wrong in terms of the content itself?
Great question. Video works so well. It's just any sort of subtle motion that you can, add to your ads will be impactful, because as people are scrolling, we're overly stimulated as it is, or we don't have very long attention spans. Anything that suddenly moves, you'll tend to stop as you're scrolling on your device, and at least you might have an opportunity to catch someone to read the ad copy and maybe take that desired action. What works well is typically, I'm not saying for everyone, I should say you should test it and find out what works best for your brand and your objectives. But long form video doesn't tend to work very well unless you have a very great video that tells a story that you can captivate people for a longer duration. So if you can do something these days, we've noticed that anything under 30 seconds is good. Under 15 seconds is great, because most people tend to dip off of the first 10 seconds if they're not interested in what you have to offer. So some things that I've seen brands not do well is that they don't show, especially if it's their first time being introduced to a brand through a prospecting campaign per se. If you show something to somebody that's a new audience, if you don't show your product or your service or something that really is indicative of what you're trying to offer in the first 10 seconds, people will be confused and they're more likely to bounce. So if you can show that very quickly and then get into what you're trying to do, that works very well. And another thing is oftentimes we've had some clients in the past send us really, really great videos, but we weren't informed that they were creating them beforehand. And it's a shame because we didn't get to the process of storyboarding with them and the developing content specifically for certain channels and ad placements, where sometimes they just might not suit the time requirement that's before it gets cut off. The format isn't very native to the platform. So it's just good to be a part of that process to, like everything else you and I do with our work, that strategy should be done before you start implementing.
Yeah, I completely agree. You mentioned this word a couple of times, tests. What does a good social media test look like? Maybe just as importantly, what does a bad test look like?
A test you should know what you're testing and try to stick to one thing at a time, so then you know for certain what's working and what's not.
This is true in search and in social, yeah.
Because if you're testing a variety of ad copy variations with a variety of creatives, okay, great, but what are you ultimately trying to test, and how do you know what you need to have? Just choose one variable, whether it's ad copy, run 3 to 5 different types of ad copy variations with one creative and see which one resonates the most with that audience. Or vice versa, when you're testing creatives, test images against ad copy, test videos against ad copy, test different audiences. So just make sure that you prioritize what you want to test and make sure that you run it long enough with, if you have a small budget, run it longer. If you have a larger budget, you don't need as much time to get out of the learning phase and see what the winner is. Just you have to make sure that your results are statistically significant before you turn anything on or off.
I love that. Well, another question I have for you. We're filming right now. I'm in Chicago, so a lot of businesses are closed. And there's this difficult decision, when to turn on my ads, when to ramp them up. I'm curious if you can give advice to businesses about when do you turn this thing back? When do you turn the dial back up? There might be an opportunity because a lot of people are maybe there's a lower cost because not as many people are involved. But what advice can you give about ramping back up?
Just keep going. I'm saying for selfish reasons, don't turn it back on because the lower costs are nice. But as cliche it might sound right now, but we're all in this together and we're all being impacted. I don't know a single business that hasn't been at least somewhat impacted, whether it's advertising or other sides of their business. But right now is a good time to start testing. If you are, you've lowered your budget, you can start ramping back up because costs are currently, I've noticed at least with our clients, they're 40 to 60% lower than in prior months before COVID. And it's just, there's a lot less competition. People have pulled back on advertising spend. People have completely disabled their campaigns. Some businesses unfortunately went out of business. So that does open up some opportunity for those of us that are still able to advertise. But, it's a good time to test. If you're new to Facebook ads, this is a really opportune time as well because it's not as expensive as it typically is. But I do expect that to go back up as we start, getting more, I hate the word comfortable, but, just kind of accepting our new norm per se.
Right. I get you. All right. Good advice. Good tips. Congratulations are in order, I think, right? You were named to the top 25 PPC influencers by PPC. Who am I giving it? PPC Heroes. Congrats on this. What did it mean to you?
Thank you so much. Oh gosh, I'm really honored. I was named. This is the second year in a row that I was in the top 50, and it's a very pleasant surprise. They have a great team over there and they do great shows. So I feel like it's a true honor to be on their list because they include the best of the best. And I'm honored to be a part of that with alongside many friends and peers and other people I look up to and learn from.
Well, it's much deserved. And thank you so much for coming on. I mean, I hope you can enjoy some beer for the rest of the afternoon. And I hope we'll see you out. How can people connect with you? What's your favorite social media platform?
It's Twitter. I love Twitter. Yeah, I'm very active on there. You can find me at Akvile DeFazio, or a little bit easier, you can just find me on my website at akvertise.com.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to sign off. I'll give you one more virtual cheers. Thank you so much for coming on. I learned a lot, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.
Likewise. Chicago's a great city, so I'll definitely be back.
Be back. Look us up.
Thanks, Mark.